Hi y'all. I hope you're having a great year. I haven't been on video in a while. I haven't done a video on College Out of the Box in a while, so I figure, it's a new year, might as well do a new video. I go around and I speak a lot on College Out of the Box, and I talk to people throughout the United States. I love hearing everybody's feedback, and I figured now would be a good time to do a shortened version of one of my seminars that I do on a regular basis at conventions and women's groups and homeschool groups and things like that. So this will be a chance for you to kind of see an overview of how College Out of the Box works, and maybe you can see if it's something that you'd like to do either yourself or with your students. And oh yes, and it's a new year and I am older and now I need glasses to read my notes, and that's just how it works. So, but anyways, my name is Renee LaDolce, and I am founder, CEO, writer of College Out of the Box. And for those of you who don't know me or don't know my story, if you would like to find out, you'll have to come and hear me speak at one of the various places that I speak at. If you check out on my website, www.collegeoutofthebox.com, you can see where I'm going to be speaking next, where I'll be at the next convention. Sometimes if I'm not speaking, I will have a table, so you can come visit me at the table. I would love to meet you all. Come introduce yourselves and we can chat. I would love that. But anyways, for those who are not familiar, College Out of the Box is a way that you can earn your college degree in less time, for less money, and with no student debt, no matter your age. And it shows you what it is. It's a method that takes all the various ways that you can earn college credits, and it shows you how all those work, and it's a way that you can take that information and then tailor it to how you or your student learns best. So you tailor it to yourself, which is perfect. I always say we're so programmed to believe that to get a good job and to get ahead in life that we need to go to high school, graduate with great grades and a lot of volunteer hours. We need to get, high scores on our SAT or ACT tests. And then we got to get into a good college, and then we go there and we stay there for 4 years, and I put 4 in quotes as you'll see in a little while why. But you graduate in 4 years, and when all that is done, after doing all that and following the rules and going the right path, that because you did it the right way, that now that you should be able to get a great job and live happily ever after, right? I mean, that's what we're programmed to believe. But unfortunately, statistics and experts are showing something a little bit different. And as a matter of fact, most experts are even saying now that the traditional 4-year brick and mortar school is actually becoming obsolete. And you can see that if you look around. A lot of schools have been shutting down, or they have low attendance fees and they need more students so they can keep paying their bills. They need people to be paying their tuition. But unfortunately, things are changing. And also, the traditional college, people are realizing that the traditional college degree now is not worth the hundreds of thousands of dollars that it takes to get one. Professionals are now seeing that they would rather train their employees, rather than have to untrain them from things that they learned in college. A lot are also finding out that most graduates are literally totally unprepared for the real world when they graduate, and that a lot of the information and technology that they learned in college, by the time they graduate, because like I said, I put 4 in quotes, it's not 4 years anymore. A majority of students are taking 5, 6, 7 years. So by the time they graduate, the information and technology that they learned in college is outmoded, outdated, obsolete by the time they graduate, and they have to relearn it again in the real world. I always say it's a new world since we, as parents, my age, has graduated college 20 some or more years ago. So things have changed, and we really need to reevaluate our preconceived notions of what it means to get a good education as well as to be successful in today's job market and economy. So first, I want to throw out some scary statistics at you about colleges and the job market in general. Okay? You're not going to like these, but this is what reality is. Statistics say that 1 in 3 students drop out of college the very first year. and less than half actually graduate college. A lot of people start, but then half graduate. The average student graduates with $40,000 in debt, and that's a conservative number, everybody. That is very conservative. But that also doesn't include all their credit card debt, which is approximately, experts are saying, between $12,000 to $20,000 more on top of that. So they have that on top of their student loans. It takes anywhere between 10 and 21 years after college to pay it off. The average monthly student loan payment is about $432. And again, that's a conservative number because I have friends who are paying anywhere between $500 and $800 around there a month. 35% of loan holders under the age of 30 are seriously delinquent on their payments. This one terrifies me. Over 2 million people over the age of 60 are still paying off their student loan debt. Over the age of 60. Come on, people. U.S. college textbooks prices have risen 1,000% since 1977. That's faster than tuition, healthcare costs, the housing market, and inflation. Only 36% of full-time students get their degree within the 4 years, like I said earlier. The average now is 5 to 6 years, and I know people who are still in school 7, 8, 9 years later. And colleges are doing this on purpose. They're a business, and they realize the longer they get you to stay in college, the more money they get, the more tuition they get. So they're making it so it's harder to get the classes you need for your graduation. Classes fill up quickly. They only offer them certain semesters, what have you. 85% of graduates do not work in their field of study. Every time I speak to people, I always ask people to raise their hand if they are working in their field of study. And majority of people, there are no hands, there's only a few hands raised. I am one of those who did not work in my field of study, so I'm part of this statistic. Tuition has gone up 400% since 1982. Over 2 million college graduates are unemployed or underemployed. And most people will now hold anywhere between 10 to 12 different jobs or careers in their lifetime. Again, I'm one of those. I don't even know. I probably had like 4 or 5 different careers in my lifetime so far. So I'm, again, part of this statistic. About 80% of students change their major at least once. But what is scary is that on average, college students change their major at least 3 times over their college career. Again, more college years, more tuition, more you're gonna have to spend. Only about 30 to 35% of US citizens actually have a college degree. Remember, many start and never finish. And many are very successful without their college degree. My husband is one of them. He doesn't have a college degree, very successful. We are so programmed, again, to believe you go to high school, you go to college. It's just what everybody does, right? But literally only 30 to 35% of citizens have their college degree. About 42% of college students admit to feeling down, depressed, or hopeless about their future. And I find this one really sad. I find that really sad that that's what college students are feeling. But the scariest statistic of all, everybody, is 85% of students move back home after graduation. You thought you got rid of them, right? Oh no, they're coming back home. So save their room, don't turn it into a gym or whatever, because they will be back. But most of that is due to the student debt, the employment problem, the rising costs of everything, etc. They just cannot do it. They have to move back home because they can't afford it. So there must be a better way, right? There is. And that's why I always say it's college out of the box. It's the best way, the best of both worlds, that you can get experience. You can get your college degree. You don't have to spend a lot of money. You can do it all. Then I'll get into that in just a second. But I always say, first off, you need to ask yourself or your student if the traditional route to college is for them. Every student is different with different passions and goals. And every student wants to go to a different school, have different majors, etc. But before you just assume that your student is going to graduate high school and go to college, here are some questions that you really need to ask. Number 1, why do they want to go to college in the first place? Is it because all their friends are doing it, or it's the thing to do, or they just assume that that's what they have to do? That's not a good reason. Are they emotionally ready for college? Big one. Can you afford it? If you can't afford it, don't do it. Do they know what they want to major in? Or does their vocation that they want to do, their career, even need a degree? Could they possibly go get a license or get experience or go to a trade school or a vocational school? Is there another way to reach that goal? Is it going to be a good social fit for your student? What is the college's graduation rate? This is a big one to ask colleges. When you're looking at colleges, you really need to ask this question. What is their graduation rate? Because again, we found out most students are taking 4, 5, 6, 7 years, and a lot of students don't graduate. And that would be a good thing to find out, and find out why, if you can ask some questions. Most of them probably won't tell you the true answer, but if you can, interview some students, things like that, that's a great thing to do. Another question, does your student want to move away from home or be close? What is the right kind of college for them? Is their traditional 4-year brick and mortar school the way they should go, or would they want to do a non-traditional route? Would that be better for them? Do they learn better in a classroom setting, or do they learn better in a self-paced type setting? If they can do anything with their life or what they want to do with their career, what would it be? Now, this is a great opportunity, if they don't know, to take those find your passion type assessments, or personal assessments, or career assessments. There's a bunch of free ones online that they can do. This would be a good time to be doing that before they get into college and then switch their major a couple times. You want to figure it out beforehand. What are they gifted in? What are their passions? And another thing to ask yourself, will college stifle or ignite those passions? I've talked to many people where college kind of stifled their passions, and I was one of them. I went to college for art history, and communications, graphic arts and advertising. And after going through all the classes, a bunch of classes that I did not have any interest in, but I had to because of my major, when I graduated, I was burnt out, and I didn't want to draw, paint, or do anything with my artwork for the longest time. So it kind of stifled the passion that I had. Now, back then they didn't have YouTube. Nowadays I have YouTube, so what I could have done now is gone on YouTube if I wanted to learn a new painting method or learn a new way to do graphic arts, or what, I could have just gone on YouTube and learned. So you have to, really consider that. Is college going to ignite those passions in them, or will it maybe stifle it? And then this is an important one. Will they graduate in debt with student loans, or is there a way that they can do it debt-free? You want to do it debt-free. You don't want your student to start off life in debt. You just don't want that for your student. I always say it's always good to know the reasons behind why you're going to do something versus just blindly doing it because everyone else is doing it. Ask yourself the difficult questions. Now, once you've established your reasons, the next step is to figure out how you want to reach your goal. Now, college might not be the way to reach your goal, or a traditional college, or even a non-traditional college. Maybe your student would need something like a gap year, or maybe your student wants to join the military, or maybe they want to start their own business, do an entrepreneurship, internships. I mean, there's a variety of other things besides college that may be the path that your child needs to take. There's classes to get your various licenses or certifications. Like I said, there's gap years. They might want to take a mission trip. They might want to join the military. They might want to travel. They might want to write a book for a year. There's so many alternatives. And on my website, I do have a list of a variety of alternatives other than college that your student may be interested in, if you want to check that out as well. Okay? But after all that, asking yourself all those questions, if you decide that, yes, I do need a college degree, then you have to decide, is the traditional way for you, traditional 4-year brick and mortar school way for you, or do you want to do a non-traditional route? Now, we're all familiar with the traditional way of college. Go off to college, be there for a certain amount of years and graduate, right? So I'm not even going to go into that. We're all familiar with that. What I am going to do is show you how college out of the box, the non-traditional way, can get you your degree. What it is, college out of the box, like I said, it's a way to gain credits quickly on your own time for a lot less money and a lot less stress with no student debt. Now, whether you're a homeschooled student or a public school student or private school, or you're an adult wanting to get your degree, it works for everybody. You tailor it to your situation. So that's the beauty of it. Now, my son earned his associate's degree when he was 15 years old. He earned his accredited bachelor's degree by the time he was 17. And the whole thing would have cost us around $6,000, But because he got cash scholarships along the way, we literally paid a couple $100s out of pocket. That was it. And I'll go into scholarships a little bit later for you. But you can do this very cheaply if this is the route that you want to go. Okay, and I will tell you, he is not some overachiever. I just want to put that out there. Everyone's like, oh, he must be this brainiac or whatever. And of course, he's my son. Of course, I'm going to say he's smart, you know, blah, blah, blah. But he was a typical teenage boy. He didn't want to be in school. And he came up to me one day and he said, Mom, as soon as high school's done, I'm finished, school's done, I am not going to college. I want to get out into the real world and live real life and, you know, do my thing. And these were his words. And I was like, okay, well, let's figure out a way that we can get you into the real world and you can accomplish your goals, but we can also accomplish mine. Because one of my goals was I wanted him to get a college degree, just so he had it, just in case he needed it. So, you know, I say whatever motivates your child. My son wanted to be done early and quickly, so I was like, okay, you know, whatever motivates your child, you know, go with it. But with mine, you know, I figured, okay, how can we reach his goal as well as my goal? And that's when I started doing all this research and figuring out how we can reach both of our goals in a non-traditional way. And that's where College Out of the Box came from, essentially. Now, people always ask me if it's about CLEP or testing or dual credit. And I would say a little bit of it is. Yes, you know, you can take CLEPs and do dual credit and all that. But actually, like I said, my son never did any dual credit. He was too young. And probably we wouldn't have done it anyways. And he only took 5 CLEP tests total. He earned all his 120 other credits in a variety of other ways, which I will go over with you today. So College Out of the Box, what it does is gives you the tools on how you can complete your degree without actually having to step foot on a campus if that's the route you want to go. Or you can earn as many credits as you can or you want or your school will accept and then transfer those into the school of your choice, thereby knocking down your tuition costs, the years you're in college and that kind, you know, all of that. So you can use College Out of the Box in a variety of ways. Okay, but for me, the ultimate goal is to spend the least amount of time and money getting your degree. At least for my son it was. The least amount of time especially. He wanted to be done with school. So that's what we did. So I want to say I'm not an expert on every single student and degree and school there is in the United States. I mean, there's thousands of schools, but I am an expert on how we did it. And every student is different. So what College Out of the Box is, it gives you all the tools that you need. It gives you all the links, all the tools, a step-by-step how to do it. And then you as a parent would tailor that to your student as to how they learn best, what their degree is, and what school they want to go to. Because again, I could never put a plan out there for every single school, every single degree out there. But this is the general outline of how the whole thing works, and then you tailor it to what you need. Okay? So we all know it's about this, right? The piece of paper, your diploma. You need a diploma, apparently. You know, that's what everyone says. You need your college degree. But we also know that this degree is not worth the paper that it's printed on, right? It's not worth the thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars that people are spending to get that degree. And, you know, I have friends still paying off their own college loans and student loans now, and they're getting ready to send their children off to college and they're getting ready to fill out those forms. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, haven't you learned anything from the last 20 years? Do you want your students paying off those college loans for the next 20, 25 years of their life? No. You know, and I always tell people, if you get the urge to start filling out those forms, those student loan forms, please just go on Facebook or go on YouTube and check out the hundreds of thousands of videos out there of all these people who are drowning in student loan debt, and listen to their stories and listen to how they couldn't follow their dream, or they had to put their life on hold, or they just can't make ends meet because of these student loans. And I guarantee you, after about a half hour of watching a variety of those videos, you will change your mind as to, you know, about filling out those forms for your own students. So please do that before you even think about taking out some student loans. Okay, my husband was in HR, human resources, for over 17 years, and I've talked to him as well as many others throughout the years, and they confirm that you do need just this piece of paper But what most of them say is that it doesn't matter where your diploma is from, what college it's from, whether it's an associate's degree or a bachelor's degree, or even really what your major was. And of course, there are exceptions to the rule. And of course, some positions need certain degrees. But a majority, a generalization of most jobs out there, they just want to know that you started something and you finished it. Because remember, most people don't graduate. They'll start it, but they don't finish. So they want to see that you started something and you finished it. And actually, the tide is changing, and I've said this before in other talks. Employers are now realizing that the college degree is not everything, and they're looking for more work experience as well as maybe the degree, or they're looking for people who stand out. And I always say, what better way to stand out than a 17, 18, 19-year-old student who has a college degree at that age and then also has work experience or volunteer hours or travel experience or what have you, because you can do college out of the box around your schedule. So you could be working, you could be interning, you could be writing a book, you could be doing a variety of things besides earning your college degree and getting that experience and padding your resume or what have you. So I say, if you can show that you got your college degree in 2 years or less or 9 months or whatever, what better way to stand out to an employer? Now, I have this quote from Dave Ramsey. Many of you probably know him. He's like the financial guru and the get out of debt guy, you know, Dave Ramsey. And he writes this. He says, choosing a college or university might be the most critical part of graduating debt-free. This one decision will shape so much of your child's future. And I'm not necessarily talking about what the school's name is that's on the diploma. The biggest key is to choose a school that your child can afford. And by afford, I mean the same thing I mean when I'm talking about affording a car or any other purchase. It means your kid can actually pay for it. It doesn't mean your child thinks she can afford the monthly payments. Too many students and parents lose sight of the fact that a college education is a major purchase, just like a car or a house. It's not a right, it's a purchase. So you need to treat it like a big purchase and shop around. And then he goes on to say, there are hundreds of people on my team, and I've hired thousands of people for real jobs that pay real money since starting my company. To this day, I have never hired someone based on where he or she went to school. I have used lawyers to do work for me thousands of times in business, and I don't know where any of them went to law school. I have never asked to see my doctor's diploma right before he started a procedure to confirm that his med school was a good one. It is mythology that a good school guarantees you'll earn more money or get more jobs. Sure, there are some jobs where people consider pedigree, but they are so few that you can't make your decisions based on that information. The Wall Street Journal recently published a study showing that more CEOs and board members of Fortune 500 companies graduated from state schools or non-traditional schools than from so-called prestigious universities. So I find that very interesting that he even says that. Okay, now we have had students who use these methods during high school, killing two birds with one stone. Some who waited until they graduated and then they can focus on earning their college credits. And then adults who throughout, they're working and have kids and what have you, and they're doing it on their own time. So college out of the box works for all ways. Now, we also had some who've taken gap years and then come back and then focused on doing this. So whatever your child needs, you can do this. And a lot of these methods of earning your college credits, when you earn your college credits, these credits bank for 20 years. So there's no rush. So you're able to do it on your own time. And we've had students who've done it. Some adults have taken 10, 15 years to get their degree, and then we've had some students who've taken 9 months to a year to get their degree. So, in between those times, you can get your degree. So you tailor it to what works best for you. So we're going to go over the few ways that you can earn college credits. But with all of these, as with anything I talk about, you need to work backwards. And what I mean by that is you find the college that you want to go to. Then you need to know what their policy is on outside credits, which ones they'll take, how many of each one they'll take, and which specific tests they'll take or classes they'll take. So you need to find that out. So go to the college. If you have your heart set on a certain college, find out what they will accept and then work from there. Then you'll earn as many as you can to transfer into that school later. Now, if your student has no idea where they want to go to school, you can start with the basics that every school will accept. You know, the first year of college, they all have the same general requirements. And those are like the basic sciences, the English composition, the humanities, the maths, etc. So you can start with those. You want to try to earn as many of those beforehand so you can transfer those in later and cut your time in college, you know, and your tuition. Also, I always say, if your student doesn't know what they want to major in, a great thing to do would be anything that they maybe feel like they're a career that they feel they're interested in, have them job shadow somebody in that field. It's a perfect way for them to kind of get a feel for the job and see if it's something that they might or might not want to do. We've had people who job shadowed vets and realized, oh, that's not what they want to do, or job shadowed, you know, movie making production company and decided, oh, that is really what they want to do. So it's a great way to narrow that down. Also, another way is to get one of those college course catalogs and have your student just circle any class that they feel sounds interesting. Now, if your student is circling a bunch of math and science courses, you know you have a STEM child on your hand and you can direct them that way. If, on the other hand, your student is circling a lot of artistic type classes or theater or movie making or video production or anything like that, you know they're more creative or artsy and you can steer them that direction. So this kind of opens their eyes a lot. Just have them not even think about it. Just circle anything that interests them. It might spark something up, you know, that they never knew they even were interested in. Now, the school my son went to accepts all these variety of ways of earning credits. And I'll get into those schools in a little bit, but let's go over the various ways, okay? So the first way, most people are familiar with dual enrollment, right? Now, there are positives and negatives with this, and I do a seminar on the positives and negatives of dual enrollment. But some of the pros, the positives are, most schools do recognize this method. It's a good way to get your foot in the door and get the college experience. It's a great way to interact with students and professors. It's usually inexpensive and in some counties even free for students, and it's a free way to get their credits. It's a great way for them to get just started in maybe one class at a time versus like a whole school, you know, whole course load of classes. So those are just some of the pros. And then some cons are your grade that you do get in dual credit will affect your GPA. You're on school property, which means a lot of times you're driving your younger student to and from the classes. And if your student is even a certain age, sometimes the schools require you to stay on property, so that's some of your time that you would have to give up. You're on their time, meaning you have to be in class at their time. If the professor says the test is on Friday and you're not ready, oh, it doesn't matter, the test is on Friday, so you're on their schedule, their time. You have to buy their textbooks usually, and as we will find out and have found out, the textbooks are very expensive. With CLEPS and other things, you don't have to buy any textbooks, so that saves you money there. A lot of times it'll be a younger student with all these older college students, and I have heard positive stories about that, and I've also heard some horror stories about that, so you need to weigh the pros and cons on that and what is good for your family. You may get stuck with a horrible professor, but then again you may get a great professor. That's again pros and cons. So there's a variety of pros and cons for dual credit, dual enrollment. Like I said before, my son never did this, partly because of some of these pros and cons. I wasn't going to have him take dual credit anyways, but at the time my son started earning college credits when he was 12 years old. And in our county, you had to be 15 to even begin to be able to dual enroll. So by the time he was 15, he already had his associate's degree. And most of the dual credit courses are those basic general ed courses for your associate's degree. So by the time he was 15, by the time he could actually get onto a college campus in my county, he already had his associates. And so none of the dual credits would have helped him for his degree anyways. So that was just our story. Okay, another way to earn college credits are the CLEPS and the DSST tests, which are kind of like CLEPS. They're the Dante's tests. The CLEPS stands for the College Level Examination Program. It's a group of standardized tests. CLEP and DSST are pretty much the same. They're multiple choice questions. You usually have about an hour and a half to 2 hours to take them. As soon as you press your last button, you find out if you pass or fail. They're pass or fail tests. CLEP is college level knowledge in 36 different subject areas, and they have a variety of tests. Now, the CLEP tests usually cover the first 2 years of college. Their general exams that cover the first year of college are the English composition, the humanities, the college mathematics, the natural sciences, the social sciences, and history. So those cover the first year of college. So even if your student doesn't know what they want to do or what they want to major in, these would be the ones to get started in, because a majority of schools will take these. And if you go to the CLEP main page online, it's clep.collegeboard.org. The CLEP main page will tell you all the variety of schools that will take CLEP tests. And it's over 2,000 schools, so you can go through that list and see if your school's on that list. Okay, or you can go to the school that you're looking at and find out. You can, call them, check their page, see what kind of CLEPs they'll take. Now, I always say we all know the first 2 years of college are really like a repeat of high school, so why not kill two birds with one stone? If your student is studying certain subjects in high school, combine it with the CLEP test. For example, if your student, most students take biology in high school. Okay, after your student has taken biology for the year, for their final, if they're homeschooler or if they're in public school, they'll take their final at school, but then maybe have them study a little bit deeper, get the CLEP guide, the REA guide, any of the testing guides, and study a little bit deeper. And while all that information is still fresh in their memory from, studying for their high school test or, the whole year of biology, study on a little bit deeper level for maybe a week or so and go in and take the CLEP test. And if you pass, you just killed two birds with one stone. You got your high school credit and now you got college credit. And the beauty of this is some of these CLEP tests are worth anywhere between 3 and 12 credits. So, when we took the biology CLEP, it was worth 6 credits. So one test got my son 6 credits. So, I always say you can do this with pretty much any subject. College mathematics, any of the histories, U.S. History 1, 2, World History, World Religions, any of the sciences, biology, chemistry, physics, any of the Englishes, English composition, 1 and 2, English literature, American literature, any of those. You might as well kill two birds with one stone while that information is fresh in their memory. Then moving on to DSST tests, those are a little bit more specific type tests. And what I mean by that, let's say CLEP will have a U.S. History 1 test, which is a general overview of like the first part of U.S. history. Well, the DSST test will have a little bit in-depth, a test that goes more in depth. For example, they'll have history of the Vietnam War or history of the Civil War or, the Middle East or things like that. So they go into a little bit more depth, and they have a variety of other tests that maybe the CLEP doesn't have, like the Intro to Computing tests that my son first started with when he was 12, or, a variety. They have public speaking and a few other different tests that CLEP does not have. So this is another way you can round out getting some credits for your degree. And not only that, some DSST tests are worth upper level credit courses. Those are upper level courses that give you upper level credit, which you're going to need as well. So those are perfect. If you go to their website, it's getcollegecredit.com. It'll give you a whole list of all their tests. You can just Google DSST tests or Dante's tests, and it's all there for you. So, like I said, my son started when he was 12. He started with an Intro to Computing test. Now this one is not one of the general requirements, but I always say have your students start with one that they feel comfortable with, because I was not familiar with taking these tests. I have never taken one in my life, and I always say this whole thing kind of started as a fluke. My son, at age 12, told me at this point that he didn't want to be in school longer than he had to, and this is when I started doing my research, and I started looking into all this and I showed him some of the tests. He's like, oh, I could take the intro to computing test. It's easy. I know computers. I'm 12. I play on computers all day long, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, well, why don't you start studying for it and we'll just see. So I always say our whole journey started as a fluke. Like, I was just expecting him to go in and totally bomb the test and fail the test, and that would be that. We'd start later on. But he studied really hard for that test and he felt comfortable. That's the one that he picked. So I'm like, okay, study for it. We went in and took the test, and there's a whole story that goes with this. But I think I was more nervous than he was taking this test. And, when he went in, like I said, when you press that last button, you find out if you passed or failed. And he came out of the room with this huge smile on his face and he passed the test. And I think I was more shocked than he was. I was flabbergasted that he actually passed the test. I was like, holy cow. And that's what kind of started us on the journey. He got confident and he was like, wow, I can do this. And that's what started the ball rolling. So I always say, start with a test that you feel comfortable with, whether or not you feel like your college might take it or not. It's just a great way to get your foot in the door and get your student confident to follow this path. Okay. Now, we did, with the DSST test and the CLEP test, some of them build off each other. Like I said, like CLEP will have US History 1, and then the DSST test would have intro to the, the Civil War, the intro to the Civil War test. And so after my son finished studying for the US History 1 CLEP test, he already had the Civil War in his head because that was part of it. So then he would just take another week or two and study a little bit deeper for the DSST test. So some of these tests build off each other. And so I would recommend doing the ones that build off each other because, again, the information is fresh in your memory. You might as well take advantage of that and do it. So he took the Intro to History, US History 1, and then the Civil War test probably about a week later, and he passed both because he had all that information fresh in his memory. So in my book, I do have a link that shows which tests build off each other. I also have a link that shows which tests are from the according to people, which are the easiest to the hardest. And again, that one I think is subjective because what might be easy for my student might be hard for yours and vice versa. It just is where their strengths lie, I think. Where your student's strengths lie, take those tests. But again, that's different. Every child is different and it's subjective. But what might be easy for my student might be hard for yours. So that one I'm just like, well, But there is a list of from easiest to hardest tests. So what I did was my son knew what he wanted to major in, and we knew what school we were going to go to. So I went to the school and I downloaded all the requirements that he needed for his major. And then I mapped out his tests and college classes to combine with what he was already learning in high school. So I made 4 pages, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior pages, what he was going to be learning in each of those grade levels. And then I try to match up any test, online course, any way that he can earn college credits with what he was already learning, because I wanted to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. It literally took me an afternoon to map it out. And of course I did it in pencil because things changed over the years, but overall I already had, within an afternoon, a 4-year plan for my son. So you can do that. It's very easy to do. Now, like I said, the test scores bank for 20 years. They're pass-fail. So if you fail, it's no biggie. It doesn't count against you or anything like that. And I think now it's 3 months before you can take it. So if you fail a CLEP or a DSST, you can take it again in 3 months. So what we did is my son failed two of them. He failed them by like 2 points, which was like, sometimes I would much rather him just totally bomb the test versus like missing it by a couple points because he gets so frustrated. He's like, oh, I was so close. But anyways, so he failed 2. And so as soon as he got out of the test, what I had him do is write down everything that he could remember from the test. Things that maybe he had questions on, things that he knew he needed to study in a little bit, more depth. Any kind of questions that he can remember. And of course, he's not going to get the same test the next time he goes in, but he's going to have the same information pretty much. So he knew what avenue, where he needed to study harder on, what he needed to, brush up on, things like that. So as soon as he got out of those tests, he did that. The next time he went in, he passed. Now, I haven't heard of anyone or haven't talked to anyone who has had to take the test more than 3 times. But I always say, just so you know, these tests cost they're usually about $80, $85 for the test, and then you have to pay a proctor fee, which is about $20, $25. So on average, these tests are $100. Okay, and again, like I said before, they range anywhere between 3 credits and 12 credits. So for $100, you can get 3 college credits up to 12 college credits. 12, those are usually the language ones. So if you're good in a language, Spanish, Italian, French, or any of those you can earn some major credits on if you're really good with the language. But if you need to take the test multiple times, 3, 4 times, even if you have to do that, it's still less expensive than doing it the normal route, because most credits in colleges cost anywhere between $700 to $1,200 per credit, and most classes are usually 3 credits. So you multiply 700 or 1,200 by 3, and that's just for one class. Well, a CLEP or a Dante's test are $100 for that same 3 credits. So even if you have to take the test multiple times, you are still saving money. But like I said, I haven't heard of anyone who had to take it more than 3 times. So, and my son, even at his age, you know, he from 12 to 17, he only had to take them twice before he passed. So now some people get all uptight and say, well, what happens if they took a test and the college doesn't accept it? Okay, well, to me, it's not a loss. They learned test taking, you know, experience. They learned the information, because you need to know this information inside and out to pass these tests. It's not a lot of money out of pocket. It's a good learning experience. So for me, I think it's a win-win either way. And like I said, you literally can take these tests 5 or 6 times and still save money. So even if your college doesn't accept it, you know, it's a learning experience for your student, and, you know, they're learning a variety of ways, you know, testing methods, information, etc. Okay, so let's go back to more ways you can earn college credits. So we talked about dual credit and CLEP and Dante's, and now there's online courses. Now you have 2 different kinds. You have professor-led and self-paced, and there's pros and cons on both of these as well. For professor-led courses, these are ones that you would log in onto your computer at the time that the professor says this time is class, you know, and you have to be on the computer at this time, and they usually watch you through a camera or, you know, something, a webcam, something like that. You get to interact with students and the professor live, and you're there live. But again, you're on their time. When the test is, you know, when the professor says that you're gonna have a test, whether you're ready or not, that's when you have the test. You are on their time schedule. Then self-paced ones, these are usually where the professor has filmed everything and taped everything ahead of time, and you can go at it at your own pace. So you would watch the videos or read the excerpts of what you need to read, or do the assignments or do the quizzes at your own pace. And when you are ready for the final, you would study at your own pace, and whenever you're ready to take it, you would we went through a program called ProctorU, and that's when they watch you through the camera on your computer, and you take your final at home, but you're being watched by somebody. But the advantage of that is you can wait until you feel comfortable and you're ready to take the final. So that's a self-paced course. Now my son did a lot of self-paced courses because he liked either going quickly or slowly through things that he needed, you know, if he knew the information, he could speed through it. If he needed more time to study it, he can go a lot slower on that information that he needed. So he did a lot of self-paced courses, which worked perfectly for him. Okay. So you want to find courses that are ACE accredited, and ACE stands for, or ACE stands for American Council on Education, or the NCCRS, which is the National College Credit Recommendation Services. And you want to make sure that your college will accept these. Now these are a little less accepted. Like a lot of colleges will not accept ACE accredited or NCCRS, but many will. So you need to find out if your college will accept these. Now the colleges, again, that my son went to, they're called the Big Three. They accept these. So you can do as many of these as you want. And these, there are so many courses out there under these. You can, just go, just Google ACE accredited courses or NCCRS, and they'll bring you to their website, and there'll be thousands of classes from a variety of schools that you can take these classes from. Now, some are more expensive than others, so you want to keep that in mind as well. We did as many free or inexpensive ones as we could. Or as close to free. Some were free and you just had to pay for the proctored exam. Some were like $19.99 a month. Some were you pay by the class. But we try to keep our costs under $100 or less as much as we could. Now some examples of these are Straighterline, Schmoop, Sailor, Clovis, Alex, except right now I think Alex has not renewed their ACE accreditation, but if you look on their website, they'll tell you when they do renew it. Liberty Online, some FEMA courses. I mean, there's a variety. And I have a master list, like I said, on my webpage, www.collegeoutofthebox.com. It's under my blog, and it's called My Master List of Alternative Ways to Earn College Credits. You can go through that and find a variety. There's like 50 ways on there. So that's another way you can earn credits. Okay, another way that a lot of you are probably familiar with are the AP exams. Now this is Advanced Placement. It's a program in the United States and Canada created by the College Board, which offers college level curricula and examinations to high school students. Now, a lot of colleges will accept AP courses, but they are expecting nowadays, the colleges are expecting higher scores on your AP exams. Now, I have some students who said, well, they took the AP course, but they never took the exam. Now, I have had some students tell me, well, my sister, for one, 20 years ago, her college accepted her AP course without her having to take the exam. But recently, when I did some research on this, I went to the AP website and I've talked to a lot of colleges. They right now are requiring the exam. So you need to find out from your college if they're going to require the exam or if the AP course will be enough, if they score high enough in the course. But most colleges now, I think, are requiring not only the course, but the AP exam. And you don't even have to take the course. You can just take the AP exam, but you need to score high enough on these. Now, for these, I'm thinking, we never did AP, partly for the fact that you can take pretty much the same courses through CLEP or DSST for, it seemed to be easier, less stressful, all that. And we didn't have to find like a testing center that did the AP, exams and all that kind of thing. So, for us, we never did this. But if you take an AP course in school, make sure you take the exam at the end and make sure you score high enough so you can get college credit for it. So that's just another way that you can earn college credits. PLAs. These are life assessments or portfolio assessments which assess your world knowledge, essentially. Now, what these do is these award college credit, certification, or advanced standing for a student's non-academic experiences and training. They evaluate the knowledge that a student has gained either in high school, in their career, with employer training programs, military service, independent study, or community service. So, for example, when I'm talking to homeschoolers, a lot of homeschoolers help their parents out in their family business. And I say, well, if you've been working in your family business for years, since you were probably a little kid, I'm sure you've learned bookkeeping and management and advertising and money management and whatever your business is. You may be able to put all that in a portfolio and earn college credit for stuff that you're doing on an everyday basis. Now, a lot of schools take these, but you need to find out from your school how they want you to put the portfolio together. Every school's different. They're going to want you to put your portfolio together in a certain way. A lot more schools are doing this. So you can ask a counselor over there, or maybe they might have you take a short little course or a video course that you need to take on how to put together your portfolio. But this is another way that you can earn college credit for doing the work that you're already doing. For example, my son earned it through CAP, Civil Air Patrol. A lot of students get their pilot's license. So Some of the schools will give you credit for getting your pilot's license. Some schools will give you credit for getting your real estate license or CPR certification or scuba. The one I was going to talk about was my son. He got his scuba certification, and his school gave him 1 credit for scuba. It was something that we were going to do anyways. So life things that, I call this the world knowledge one, and I love this because it's things that you're going to do anyways. If you're an EMT or you're accounting, you're in accounting, or you have a real estate license, or you have any type of license, you might want to see if your school will give you a portfolio assessment and that you can earn college credit with. So that's another avenue for you to get college credit. One of my favorites is summer programs. I love these. These are great because anyone can do these over the summer, and you can earn quite a few just over a summer. So if you didn't even want to do anything during school, you could be earning credits over the summer. Some examples are the National Student Leadership Conference, Summer Scholars Program, apprenticeships or internship programs, Worldview Academies. For example, Summit Ministries, I know in Colorado, has a 2-week Worldview Academy. And at the end of that, I think, I'm not sure if it's a paper or test or a combination of both, but if you want to earn college credits for that, if you write a paper or take your test or score high enough and you pay a little extra money, you'll get college credit through that college. I think it's Bryant College. I'm not positive on that. But whatever college they do it through, you can earn college credit through them at the end of those 2 weeks. So 2 weeks out of your time, you can pay some extra money, get some college credit, and then that can transfer into the school of your choice later on. That's another way. There's a variety. There's Impact 360, Summit Ministries, and a few other Worldview ones over the summer. You can do college campus experiences, one like Envision, or do summer STEM programs, or Broadreach, or many others. There was one I was Googling for this, summer programs to earn college credit. Just Google it. There was one, a camp of surfing in Costa Rica. And this one was like a 14-day camp, but they would do mission work. They would learn about the flora and fauna of Costa Rica. They would learn the language. They would learn surfing. They would do fun stuff. And at the end of that, you can earn college credit depending on if you showed mastery over your subject. You can earn some college credit through that as well. So who knew? Surfing in Costa Rica, earn some college credits. So that might be something for one of you out there. But just Google summer programs, how to earn college credit over the summer, any of that, a bunch will come up, as well as on my website I have a bunch of those listed there for you. And then there's also another way you can earn credits is through MOOC classes, M-O-O-C. They're massive open online courses. If you Google, you can get a whole list of classes, many of which you can earn college credit through. A lot are free, that you would take the class and then you would just have to pay for the proctoring fee. Coursera is one off the top of my head that I can think of. They have like 5 or 6 courses that you can take for college credits. This is the one that people say it's their free internet degree, which I just love because you can earn so many great things. You learn from the best professors, the best classes for free on the internet. You can take as many classes as you want from literally the best professors in the world for free. Take advantage of it. I would say these are probably better than any courses you'll ever get in a traditional college anyways. And my son and I actually did a variety of these, and some we did for college credits and some we didn't. We were just fascinated with the subject and we just did it. And I tell you, I learned more through those classes than I ever did in college. And they were just phenomenal. I mean, TED Talks is another one. Watch those. I love TED Talks. But you can literally get a free internet degree and you can learn anything. There's so much on the internet that you can learn. Okay, and then there's other miscellaneous ways you can earn college credits. For example, my son took some cybersecurity courses online, some real estate courses. He did the School of Biblical Evangelism, TEEX. He did a creation science college course online. He took some language courses. FEMA does some free ones online if your school will take those. There's a variety of ways you can also get college credits. But again, as with all of these, I would say check with your school to make sure that they will accept these before you go all hog wild. So remember I told you that my son's the schools that my son went to, the school that my son went to, there are 3 of them, accept all of these. Now, these are what you want to write down, these schools. Okay, these are where these 3 schools come in. They're called the big 3 schools. They're very smart because they're actual schools, brick and mortar schools, but they cater to the military, adults, and non-traditional students. So I think they were really smart in that fact that they would cater to those people, because a lot, like I said, a lot of traditional schools will not. Sugar booger, no, that's my dog, everybody. But anyways, traditional schools, you know, like I said, they're becoming obsolete. Well, these schools were smart because they're catering to the non-traditional students. So you have number 1, Thomas Edison State University. They're in Trenton, New Jersey. Number 2, Charter Oak in North Britain, Connecticut. And number 3, Excelsior College in Albany, New York. Now, these are 3 regionally accredited schools in the U.S. that have no limit on the amount of credit through these various avenues that I talked to you about that they will accept. Now, most schools will severely limit the many credits and what types that you can transfer into your school. But these 3 schools don't, which is awesome. So now these schools started as schools for adults. So when you get to the page, a lot of times it'll say you need to be 21 years or older to enroll. Well, the other option is if you have a certain amount of credits, college credits, you can transfer those in and apply for an age waiver. Now, I have not talked to anyone who had the credits and the experience that, you know, all the credits that they had, who got denied the age waiver. So don't worry about that. As far as I know, no one has been denied one. So I would also say that these 3 schools, of course, are not super well known. They're not Princeton or Harvard or Yale or all the ones that you hear about. But that does not prevent your student from going on to bigger and greater things. It's not going to prevent them from going to med school or law school or to graduate school or anything like that. I interviewed hundreds of people graduates from these schools, and none of them had any problem going on to something else or getting a job or anything like that. I mean, personally, I went to a small private college in Dubuque, Iowa, and when I say what college I went to, no one's heard of it. But that hasn't prevented me from getting any, you know, further in life because no one's heard of the college I went to. You know, I would say sometimes people get stuck on brand names of schools, and, you know, that's fine. If you want your student to go to a certain school or say that your student went to Harvard or whatever, that's fine. But if you want to go to a brand name school, you're going to be paying those brand name prices. So just be prepared, you know, it's just one of those things. So it really doesn't matter in the scheme of things. I mean, how many people, I always say, how many times has someone asked you where you went to college or what your SAT score was or what your GPA was? I mean, I can count on, you know, the fingers of my hand how many times people have asked me that. No one's ever asked me my SAT score or my GPA or any of that. Usually, like I said, employers just want to know that you went to a school and that you graduated. That's it. So another way you can earn college credits is these 3 schools also have their own tests, which are kind of like CLEP, that you can take as well. And it's kind of the same format and everything else. So you can even get a few of your college credits through these 3 schools as well, which is great. So you can go to these school sites and check out their choices for majors and what's required. And like I said, you can match up your tests and your classes to cover these. So that's another way. So if you want to go all the way through, like my son did, these 3 schools would be the way to go. Now, if you wait until you accumulated almost all of your credits, 60 for an associate's and 120 for your bachelor's degree, then what you would do is you would transfer them all in at once, and you will have to pay for 1 year's worth of tuition through these schools and a one-time transfer fee for, you know, your courses. That would be better than transferring each class separately. Let the courses stay in your CLEP account or your ACE account and let them bank for those 20 years or however long it takes you, and then you would take one transfer fee and transfer them all over, okay? Now, at that time, then, the school, what they'll do is they'll plug in all your classes, they'll tell you what's missing, your counselor will talk to you, and you'll finish out your last few classes through the school, whichever school that you enrolled in, and graduate from there. And usually you have to take, it's called a capstone course, capstone class. That's required through whatever school it is that you're graduating from. That's one of the courses that you'll definitely have to take, and whichever other ones that you're missing for your major, okay? And even now, these schools sometimes even have specials. Like when we enrolled, they were having a special, buy one class, get one free through Thomas Edison. So when we signed up, he had to take 3 classes to finish out his major, my son. So it was a buy one, get one free. So we even got a discount on that. They also have great discounts for military families. These schools, like I said, cater to military families. So if you are in a military family, ask them what kind of specials they have. I think some of them will even be totally free for you. So, you know, take advantage of that. Now, with any school, I always tell people, negotiate, negotiate. Universities are a business and they want yours. So if you refuse, if they refuse to accept all your credits, you can negotiate with them. I would say something like, if you have your heart set on this school, but this school will accept all your credits, I would go to this school and say, well, this school over here is willing to accept all of our credits, and we really want to go to your school, but we need you to accept all of our credits. And I have talked to a few people who have done that, and it has worked well for them. They were able to get a lot of more credits than they thought they would be able to get accepted in, because the school wants your business. It's a business, and they want your money. So negotiate. But you also have to be willing to walk away. If the school will not be willing to work with you, then walk away. There are thousands of other schools out there. You can't have your heart set on just one school. But if you do, then be prepared to pay the money or do whatever it takes to go to that one school, if that's the route you want to take. But if you're trying to save money and you want to do it in a more economical manner, negotiate with the schools, okay? Now, I want to touch briefly on transcripts. So many freak out over transcripts when they really don't need to. There are many templates online for free that you can download, you can check out, and you just fill them in with your classes. Now, if you're working backwards from a specific college, check out what their requirements are for high school, and what their entrance exam requirements are, and tailor your transcript to that. Make sure your student is taking those courses. If they say they need 4 years of science, or 2 years of science and 2 labs, or 4 years of language, or what have you, make sure you cover those so they can get into the school of their choice. Now, on my Facebook page, I do have a huge list of every class and how each one of those translates into a high school credit. It's called Transferology, and you can Google it, I'm sure, because it's been out. It's just a link that for people to use. So people always wonder, how many credits is this worth and how many credits is that worth? General rule is, if it's a semester course, it's worth half a credit for high school, and if it's a full year's course, it's worth 1 credit for high school. Okay, that's the just general method that I used. Now, it's easy when you're taking these tests or classes, because the title of the test is the title that you put on your transcript. So he took his biology CLEP, so I put biology, and for us, I figured if he passed a CLEP test, that means he would have passed a high school class easily. So I would label it biology honors on his transcript, and then 1 credit for that because it was a year's course, and whatever grade he got. And if he passed the college test, I gave him an A for his high school. So that's how we did that. And then I figured out his GPA. So I'm from Texas. Now, each state has different homeschooling and schooling laws, so you do need to follow the laws of your state as to what counts as a high school credit. But at the bottom, so you have their name and their classes and their credit and then their grade, and then at their bottom, the GPA. I also just put some major awards or, just awards or part-time jobs he had, some good ones, not all his part-time jobs, but, some major ones, as well as his volunteer hours at the bottom. And then in the bottom corner, I put college credits earned. And at the time, I think it was like 117 or 116 credits. So I just put 116 or whatever. And then at the end of the whole thing, I just had the whole thing notarized. Now, that might not be required, but I just felt it made it look more official, and I didn't want to close doors that didn't need to be closed, so I just got it notarized. It was easy, might as well do it. So, I've had so many people say how stressed out they were for putting together the transcripts and over transcripts. And then when they gave it to the schools hardly even glanced at them. So I really wouldn't stress out about transcripts. Just make sure it's professional looking and organized. Like I said, one page with a listing of the classes, grades, GPA, awards, and major accomplishments, credits earned, easy peasy. That's it on transcripts, okay? So let's move on. Now I really want to stretch you out of your box a little, and I'm going to blow your minds. Another thing we're so programmed to believe is this whole hoopla about the SAT and ACT tests. Well, the beauty of this process is once you've accumulated a certain amount of credits, you are no longer considered a high school student, but you're transferring into your college as a transfer student, right? As a college student, which means no ACT, no SAT. You don't have to take them, right? Especially if you go to one of the big three colleges. Now, I will say every school's different, so check with your school to make sure. Don't just say, oh, I'm not gonna need it if I have this many credits. Check with your school to make sure. But I've also seen that a lot of schools now, even if you're just going into the school, many schools now are foregoing the SAT and ACT tests. So it just might be something that you might not even have to take on a normal route if you check with the school. So find out. So if you don't need to take the SAT and ACT, that means you don't have to deal with the hoopla going on right now about how the SAT test has changed. One thing about the SAT test is that it's a test that tries to trick you versus CLEP and DSST tests. Those are just tests that try to see how much you know. You know, it's like a straightforward answer. You know, here's the question, which is the best answer? Well, the SAT test is a test that tries to trick you. And so you really need to be taking classes or courses on how to take the SAT test, not just even, you know, the information on it. You need to take a course on that. And I have friends who are taking these Testmaster courses and hiring tutors, and those Testmaster courses I think are $700 for the course, or hiring tutors for their students. So if you don't have to take the SAT or ACT test, think about that. Less time, less stress for your student, no money out of pocket for having to study for this thing, and, you know, something else less time that you have to spend on worrying about one other thing you have to do. So that's another thing that you can just mark off your list and you don't need to do. You don't need to take it. No time wasted. So let's move on to the nitty gritty. I know you're all thinking, okay, sounds good, but how much is all this going to cost us, right? Okay. We all know that the average cost of a 4-year brick and mortar college is about $25,000 a year. And that's a conservative number, but let's just stick with $25,000 a year, okay? So that's about $100,000 for 4 years. Now remember, most people take longer than 4 years. They take 5, 6, or 7 years. So add another 25 grand, 25 grand, 25 grand onto that, okay? And now that doesn't include all the extras like transportation costs, living expenses, textbooks, sport events, food, parties, all of that. So that is just tuition. That doesn't include everything else. And we all know how expensive textbooks can be, right? We talked about that. Students spend anywhere between $1,500 to $2,000 a year alone on textbooks. That's it. $2 grand a year just for textbooks. Now I say, that's just crazy. I mean, that's, you know, just for that. But we spent, I think it was about $70 total for our textbooks and guides for my son's full bachelor's degree. And in my ebook, I have an ebook called College Out of the Box. I have a chapter on how we saved money on textbooks, where you can get textbooks for free, where you can get study guides for free. We did everything. Everything that I can do for free is the way we did it. So we spent, like I said, about $70 total for his whole bachelor's degree on textbooks and study guides. Now, so we figured out a 4-year brick and mortar school is about 25 grand a year. The big three colleges average about $3,200 to $3,600 a year. So about, let's say, between $3,500 and $4,000 and $4,000 a year. Since you'll be transferring all your credits, you'll only be paying for 1 year's worth of tuition, so just 1 year's worth, And you will not need room and board, you will not need transportation costs, you will not need textbook costs or any of those other extra costs, okay? So along with your testing fees and maybe some other online college courses, your transfer fees, your diploma fees, etc., your whole accredited bachelor's degree can cost you less than $6,000 total. So then your student can go on and get their master's degree if they want. They can start a business, they can start their career in another 2 to 3 years by the time they're 20, 21 years old, when everyone else is just graduating from college and graduating with lots of debt. Your student can have their master's, could have been established in their career, could have traveled the world, a variety of things by the time their peers are just getting out of college, and for a fraction of the cost. I also have a link on my Facebook page for the cheapest master degrees online as well, and you can actually do it college out of the box way, the same way for your master's degree. And an average of those master's degrees that I highlight, they're all about $6,000. So for $12,000, $6,000 for your bachelor's and $6,000 for your master's. So for $12,000, half the cost of 1 year of a traditional 4-year college, you could have 2 degrees by the time your peers graduate with 1 at 10 times the cost, right? So it's a win-win in my book for that. Now, like I said, you don't have to do this while you're in high school. We have students who wait until they graduate and then they stay at home and they focus on getting as many credits as they can. For most students who are focused, like I said, they can get it done within 2 years or less. Most people take about 1.5 years. We've had some students do it in 9 months, 10 months, 1.5 years, 2 years, but 1.5 years to 2 years is the average. If you're really focused, you can get it done sooner than that. Now you figure the average student in college spends only 2 to 3 hours in actual classes or on academics a day. So for those staying at home and who are concentrating on their degree, that's how they can get a 4-year degree done in 1.5 years. Because most of the time the kids who are in college, they're only spending 2 to 3 hours a day on academics anyways. So if you're focused, you can get it done. But again, remember, there's no rush. These credits bank for 20 years, so you can take your time if that's the way you want to do it. I always tell people, you need to treat college as any other investment. You have to look at the ROI, the return on investment. Now, you wouldn't spend $250,000 on a house that you're not going to live in, or $30,000 on a new car that's just going to sit in your driveway and you won't drive, right? But people do it all the time with their college. They spend thousands of dollars, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, on their degree, but then they end up being a stay-at-home parent, which there's nothing wrong with that, but they get a degree to be a stay-at-home parent, or they get a job in a field unrelated to their major, or they end up in a job that they're overqualified for, but they couldn't find a job, so they're underemployed, and they spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on that degree. Why spend all that money when you can get for less than a fraction, get your degree for less than a fraction of that amount? Don't spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on a degree that you probably aren't going to use. And like we found out, most people end up 85% work in a field unrelated to their degree anyways. So just keep that in mind. You also have to count the cost, the actual cost, like tuition, room board, travel, books, other expenses, plus the opportunity costs lost. And what I mean by opportunity costs, those are the income and retirement benefits that are not earned because your student is spending years in college and then afterwards spending years trying to pay off their student loans. If your student let's say your student is going to do the college out of the box way and they graduate at 17, 18, 19, 20 with their degree, their peers won't get out of school until 21, 22. Okay, if your student has got their degree and has start working 3, 4 years earlier than their peers, 2, 3, 4 years earlier, that's extra money that they're earning. That's extra money they're investing. That's extra money that they can spend or put towards their dream or goal or what have you. It's extra money that they can put towards their retirement, all that. Now, when their peers graduate, most of them are going to have debt on top of that. So they spent all these years in college not earning money, not investing money, Now when they get out of college, they have all these loans to pay off. Again, not investing money, not being able to earn money. They're earning their money, but that money is just flying out the door for their student loans. So those are opportunity costs lost. So you have to figure actual costs as well as opportunity costs, okay? I also say another cost to consider is the cost of your students' well-being and soul. You just spent 18 years or so homeschooling these students, if you're a homeschooler, or raising these students, or whatever, and now you just want to send them off to who knows what. Everyone knows that colleges have become known as the most politically correct, liberal places where indoctrination thrives. Many of them are unsafe. They're not preparing students for the real world. And they're offering classes like this. I Googled this. This is crazy. They're offering classes like getting dressed, or what if Harry Potter were real, or the sociology of Miley Cyrus, or jamming out with Beyonce. I mean, these are actual classes that are being held on student campuses. Another side note is I have personally witnessed students who have gone off to college and come back after even just 1 year, who came from really strong families and they were really on fire for the Lord, and then they come back and within a year their whole appearance and personality have totally changed to the point where I barely recognize them, and that's just after 1 year of being in school. And then I say, you're paying thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars for that, for your student to go away and come back and be unrecognizable. That's just another thing you should think about. So talking about costs, some people say that if you're transferring in as a college student, that pretty much disqualifies you from scholarships that entering freshmen get. Now, I would say yes and no on that. Again, every school is different. I know many people who had lots of college credits being transferred in and they were still considered an entering freshman. It would depend on your college. But let's talk about the types of scholarships you can get, okay? You have the school-specific scholarships. These are usually the big ones, like the academic, the merit-based, the need-based, the athletic, the full-ride scholarship. These are the big ones that, go to that particular school. Well, everyone's looking for that full-ride scholarship, right? But did you know that only 0.3% receive enough grants and scholarships to cover the full cost of college? Now, a lot of people get something called a full ride scholarship, but it doesn't cover all their costs. I have a blog on my website called College for Free. If you want to get more information on these types of scholarships or how you really can get college for free, read that. Okay. Other places for college scholarships or college cash are places to look throughout your community. And through company-sponsored scholarships. For example, places like the Boy Scouts, the Civil Air Patrol, the Lions Club, community centers like that offer scholarships. Homeschool groups offer scholarships. Volunteer organizations, companies, private companies, many private companies offer scholarships. Find out what your community service organizations offer. Check out all the private companies, or even the companies that you or your husband or someone in your family works for. What we did, my son went to my husband's boss and told him about how he was going to do school, and he asked if there was any scholarships for college, and the boss said no. We don't have any particular scholarships for college, but what were you thinking? And so Truett laid out his plan and told him, well, I plan on doing this for college. I'm not going to go the traditional route. This is my plan. And he laid out how he was doing it. And the boss was so impressed with his little presentation that he said, well, you know what? We don't have a scholarship program, but I will pay for any costs that you incur for earning your college credits. Meaning, like if he had to take a CLEP test or an online course or have to pay for a proctored exam, that was all paid for through the boss who offered to do that, which was a huge blessing. So even if your company doesn't have a scholarship program, maybe set up a little presentation and try to get one anyways, okay? But this one's my favorite. This one is you can do for any age. You don't have to be a certain grade, or you don't have to be a senior or a junior in high school to start these. These are the ones that we did a lot of. These are contests or cash contests. And these are so many, you can find these everywhere. You got essay contests and videos and poetry and radio and online and grocery store contests and, you know, restaurants and things that you just need to fill out forms or write a little paragraph or Instagram something or do a caption or take a photo. We entered a ton of these. I would say my son probably entered about 100 of these or so. He entered poetry and writing contests and some video contests. He did some ones online or on Instagram. He went to some grand opening things. He did a dog photo contest, caption contest, all these things. He started at 12. And what I had him do is about every month I had him enter 4 or 5 different contests, cash contests that you can use the cash for anything. Now, some of these were easy. You just fill out a form, mail it in, or, you know, online. Some where you had to write a little paragraph. Some you might have had to write a paper or do a video or something. So some were a little less intensive, you know, less time consuming, and some were more time consuming. So I you know, varied those out for every month. So he had to enter about 4 or 5 every month. Some he won, some he didn't, some he lost, but you know, he still had the experience and he did it. But as he started winning a few, the money started coming in. And, you know, a few times even, we would just, while we were doing our schoolwork, we would listen to those radio programs and they would say, you know, like the 100th caller gets, you know, $1,000 or the 15th caller gets $500. So we would have the radio playing in the background. And when they got to that point where it said, okay, call in or whatever, we would both stop what we were doing, get on the phone and start calling in. And we won a couple of those. So just for a few moments of our time, we won $1,500. And, you know, if you apply that to CLEP tests, that's 15 CLEP tests for free that you just got. So, you know, there are contests everywhere. Another time we went to CiCi's Pizza, and at the front it was like, win a $10,000 scholarship. It said, take a picture of yourself at the pizza bar, and in 500 words or less, write why you think you deserve a scholarship. So my son cranked that one out over lunch, over pizza, and entered it. You know, of course, we didn't win that one, but he tried. You know, you never know. But you can find them everywhere. When we're in the grocery store, you see things on boxes and on advertisements. You just got to keep your eyes open. They're everywhere. And on my Facebook page, College Out of the Box, I post weekly scholarships that I find. And in my book, I post all the places that get you started on where we found scholarships, places that you can find contests, cash contests, the best places to go to, the books we got, all of that. But literally, open your eyes. Those are everywhere. Now, I would say some people are like, well, those aren't the big ones. Those aren't like for thousands and thousands of dollars. And I would say, yeah, no, but when your whole degree is costing you $6,000 or less, and you know, $25, $50, $100 here comes rolling in, that small money actually adds up. And like I said, we spent only probably a couple $100 out of pocket for his whole degree. The rest he got in cash scholarships. So these might not be for thousands of dollars, but I wouldn't discount the little money here and there. It adds up. And I would just ask Christina Ellis. For 4 years while in high school, her mom did the same thing to her. She said, you need to apply to as many scholarships as you can because I have no money for you for college. So she applied to as many scholarships as she could, no matter the amount. And at the end of the time, not only did she have enough in scholarships for a free ride at Vanderbilt University, but enough to pay for her master's degree as well. She earned, get this, over $500,000 in scholarship money. So if you want to check out her full story, she has a book called Confessions of a Scholarship Winner. It's on Amazon. You can read her story. And like I said, personally, I say it works because we did the same thing and it paid for his whole degree. So don't discount all the little money here and there. It adds up. And like I said, I post a lot on my Facebook page. Check those out. And I give you ideas on how to get you started, where to look for scholarship books, things like that. And I always say just a little bit of research can yield you great results. So just do a little bit of research. Now, it's true that if you are transferring into a school, you probably won't get the big, huge freshman scholarships you would normally get, though, like I said, each school is different. But I would always say, do you know of any scholarship that saves you this much money the first year anyways? I mean, like I said, your whole degree is going to cost you less than $6,000. Even if you had a full ride scholarship, Sometimes those just cover tuition and board, but maybe they don't cover your textbooks or your entertainment or your cost of living, or anything else. I would challenge you, and when people talk about this, I always challenge people and I say, okay, find somebody graduating from a 4-year brick and mortar school with scholarships or even a full ride scholarship who doesn't pay over $6,000 in other expenses. For example, parking passes, extracurricular activities, gas, beer and pizza night, fast food, what have you. I guarantee that over 4 years, they're going to be spending more than $6,000, even if they do have a full ride scholarship. So you're still coming out on top like a bandit. You're making out like a bandit, and you're getting your degree for under $6,000. And remember, statistics show that only 0.3% people get enough scholarships to cover everything anyways. But even if you didn't want to do any of this scholarship stuff and didn't want to enter all these contests or what have you, come on, you can still pay your way through college by working a small part-time job. I mean, a club test is about $100. Don't tell me that your student can't work part-time, babysitting, walking dogs, or whatever, and earn $100 every month or so. So while they're working, they could be studying for a club test or doing a lot of these online courses or other ways to earn college credits. A lot of these are free, and you just have to pay for the proctored exam, which is only $20 or $25. So they could be doing some of these free ones. They could be working and saving up, and as soon as they get $100, go take a club test and then start over. Come on, we can go back to the way it used to be, where you could work a part-time job and pay your way through college. Do that. Or you could even get your grandparents involved, or the parents involved, or your neighbors involved, and just tell them what you're doing. And maybe they'll offer to give you $25 a month or $100 a month in a savings program. And by the time you're ready to transfer everything in and pay your last years of tuition, you might have enough money to cover all that if you can get the grandparents involved. So I always say, if you want to go the normal route and transfer into a traditional college, that's great. You can earn as many credits as you can and transfer it in. And then now still, if you can cut out 1 year or even a semester's worth of school, imagine how much money and time you're going to be saving. So it's worth it, even if you can get a few of your courses done this way. But look around you. Kids are spending an average of 4 to 6 years minimum in college. They're paying tens of thousands of dollars. They're graduating with huge debt and still not able to find a high enough paying job where they don't have to move home, right? When it comes time to graduate. Why do college the way everyone else does it when there is a better, more efficient way? You can do it college out of the box way. I say it's less time for less money with no student debt. And I always say, I know it can be scary stepping out of the box and doing something, following a path that's unfamiliar, but oftentimes it's when you do that, that's when you reap the best rewards. And it's the brave few who are willing to try something new that stand out from the crowd. And what better way to stand out from the crowd than perhaps getting your degree by the time you're 17 or 18, or starting your own business, or getting your degree and starting your own business and traveling and doing all this. You can do it all for a less amount of money and less amount of time and reach your goals. So that's just an overview of really how College Out of the Box works, and thank you all for sticking with me and listening, and hopefully I'll answer a lot of your questions. I do have a webpage, www.collegeoutofthebox.com. I have a Facebook page. I have some YouTube videos that answer the most asked questions and things like that you can watch. I also have an ebook out on Amazon called College Out of the Box. The ebook is $9.99. It's an ebook for the fact that it has all the links that you'll ever need, all the chapters. It gives you study guide helps, places where we found scholarships, how we saved on all our textbooks, all the links to the schools, the CLEP guides, the CLEP pages, the DSSTs, all the different alternative ways to college, the alternative ways that you can earn your college credits. All that's in there, but it's all in links. It's an easy to read book. It's about 50 pages long, so you can literally read it in probably about an hour. But the links are what you can spend days and weeks and months with. But it is $9.99 for the book. And I always tell people I am so not in this for the money, because Amazon pretty much takes half the profit anyways. But you know what? I am in this because my heart is with all the students out there who are struggling. I don't want students to struggle with debt. My big thing is living debt-free, and I want you to reach your goals in a way that you can reach your goals, do it affordably, and then be able to accomplish those goals and not be in debt and having to pay off debt so it puts your goals farther off. I want you to reach your goals. So I thank you all for spending time with me. Y'all have a blessed year, and hopefully I will see you at one of my talks or at one of the conventions, and come introduce yourself and come meet me at my table. I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.